Hello all, welcome back to NEET Made Simple by PEBBLEZ Pedagogy. We are discussing or continuing with our discussion about diversity in the living world. In the previous video, we have looked at taxonomic categories. Right? We have looked at what is the definition of taxonomic categories. You must also remember that taxonomic categories are also called as taxa. This is plural and it is called as taxon when it is singular. Right? So you must know that the taxonomic categories which we have discussed in our previous video, right, at the end of the previous video, can also be called as taxa if there are more than one, and they're called simply as taxon if it is singular. So these are scientifically, or scientists make use of such words, right? Scientists make use of the terminology such as taxa and taxon. They are similar or they mean the same as taxonomic categories. Now that we know about taxonomic categories, let us try and define the word taxonomy. Have you heard of this term before? Just take a moment, pause the video, think about it, and you can get back. Okay, all right. I believe you have thought of what the definition might be for a while. Once now we have learnt about identifying, classifying, giving names. Why do we do all this? Because we are curious to learn and group these organisms into different groups so that we can easily identify them, we can easily recognize them, make use of these organisms, be it plants or animals or microorganisms for our own benefit, right? So here comes a taxonomy into picture. Now how do we define taxonomy? Based on all characteristic features, all living organisms can be classified into different taxa. This process is called as classification, or this process of classification of all plants and animals into different taxa is called as taxonomy. Let me repeat, the process of classifying all living organisms into different taxa is called as taxonomy. And also we have not only, as human beings, we are curious creatures. We have not only classified, identified, given names, but we also try to establish relationship between different living organisms, and that branch of science is called as systematics. Alright, so I'll change the color of the pen, make it into a different color. So the systematics is establishing relationships between these various groups of organisms, right? Now you know what taxonomy is and systematics mean. I would like to give you an example of various taxa which you should be knowing. When we keep grouping or when we are given a task of classifying or grouping or sorting different organisms, we put them into several groups, and these smaller groups when grouped together form a larger group. So we would have given different names for all that. So I would like to have you to have a look at various taxonomic categories. As always, I have given a mnemonic which will help you remember these taxonomies, right, or taxa. King Philip came out for good soup. Since I have used green at the beginning of each word, it will help you remember that K stands for kingdom, P for phylum, C for class, O for order, F for family, G for genus, S for species. I have taken the most common example of Homo sapiens. Here at the base of the slide or at the bottom of the slide, I have written the binomial name of man, it is Homo sapiens. Now you know how to write scientific names, don't you? Apologies. So Homo sapiens is written this way, and also if I write H capital with a full stop and sapiens, it means that it is Homo sapiens only. Now here I would like to relate it to the species here. So we all belong to a common species which is called as sapiens, and many species, many such species, various species would be grouped under a taxonomic category called as a genus. So we belong to the genus of Homo, right? And the family is called as Hominidae, while we belong to an order called as Primata, and the class is Mammalia. You know that I think you have heard of mammals, isn't it? We belong to the class of mammals wherein human beings give rise to young ones of their own kind. Their body is covered by hair or fur, and although they have external ear, all these are characteristic features of organisms belonging to the class Mammalia. So we all belong to mammals, don't we? Then Chordata is the name of the phylum, and the kingdom to which we all belong to is Animalia. That means this kingdom only has animals, right? So these various such taxa are taxonomic categories. Why did we do this? In order to simplify our job, in order to make the classification process less clumsy. Okay, I have taken another example of a plant here, right? Plants belong to a kingdom which is called as Plantae, right? Then we are discussing about wheat. To be very honest with you, we are discussing about the taxonomic categories to which wheat belongs to. The scientific name of wheat is Triticum aestivum, or simply it is written as T. aestivum. Okay, that is the binomial name. So here you know that aestivum is the name of the species, alright. T, which stands for Triticum, is the name of the genus. While all these wheat, rice, all these things belong to the group of or family of grasses. So the family to which all the grasses belong to is called as Poaceae, right? And the order is Poales. These are all monocotyledons. You know of mono and dicotyledons, don't you? Mono and dicotyledon. The dicotyledons are those plants which have seeds that split up into two cotyledons, whereas monocotyledons are those plants which produce seeds that have a single cotyledon, right? Now, looking at these taxonomic categories, you will be easily able to identify that wheat is a monocot, right? So, the class to which it belongs to is the Monocotyledonae, and the phylum to which it belongs to is Angiospermae, while the kingdom is Plantae, right? So, here are two examples. As always, one of animals, the other one of the plant, to help you understand various taxonomic categories or taxa or taxon in singular, and how can you establish relationships. We will learn that slightly later, right? So do you know anything about species and how to define a species? Now think of Homo sapiens. We all belong to the species sapiens. Why are we grouped under sapiens? It is because how do we define it? Group of organisms, right, which can breed with one another to produce fertile offsprings. This is the simple definition of species. Let me simplify this for you. See, we are all group of organisms, right? Though we may look slightly different from each other or different to each other, we all belong to the same species, because as human beings we can interbreed with other human beings, and the offsprings or the babies that are produced are obviously fertile. That means when these babies grow up to be adults, they can again reproduce. So I hope you have understood the meaning of species. Now, I have two examples here. Panthera leo and Panthera tigris. This is the binomial name, or in simple terms I would like to call it scientific name. Now think for a second and tell me if you notice any difference. Okay, there you go. The second word, that is the species or specific epithet, is different in both of them. So here the name of the species is Leo, while here the name of the species is Tigris, right? That means though these two organisms belong to the same genus of Panthera, they belong to different species. That this is the common name for Panthera leo is lion, and for Panthera tigris it is tiger. Now I am justifying the definition of species here. If a tiger and a lion mate, then they might produce an offspring or a young one, but that young one will not be fertile. That means this young one will grow up to be an adult and is not able to reproduce. Alright. So, in simple terms, I have explained and justified the definition of species. We have taken two examples, one of the lion, another of the tiger. Here, by looking at the scientific name, you can easily tell me that while lion belongs to the species Leo, tiger belongs to the species of tigris. A tiger is able to breed with another tiger and produce a new individual, young one, whereas a lion will mate with another lion and the resultant is, or the offspring produced is a cub, right? Baby lion. And this lion will grow up to be an adult and mate with another lion to form a young one of its own kind. So they are producing fertile young ones, but if a lion and a tiger mate, they produce young ones which may not be fertile. I have written S here, apologies for that. It is fertile. Alright. So this sums up the definition of species and why it is important for us to know the definition of species and to be able to understand. And if going further, you will learn many scientific names of worms, be it plants, be it may be parasites, which bacteria, fungi and all those things. So you should know what a scientific name is, to which species they belong. You should be able to know about all these taxonomic categories which we have discussed here. Alright, so you know what a species is, what is meant by a genus, then what is a family. You might have a family of your own wherein there are 4 of you, right? So here we classify plants and animals into families. They have similar characters. Similar such families are grouped under one group which is called as an order. Then they are grouped under a class. Then finally a phylum and a kingdom. See, you can take simple examples such as your school to be a kingdom, wherein all students might be belonging to a phylum and all those things. Different grades of student might be the first standard student belongs to class 1, the second standard belongs to class 2. So you can relate these learnings to your daily life and hence make it simple for you to remember, right? So this was a slightly dry topic and I hope you have understood what I wanted to convey, right? Then in the next video we might discuss in detail, or we might go into the depth of the depth of taxonomic categories. If you want to, please do comment if you would like to learn more about taxonomic categories, or else I would better off start off with taxonomic aids in the next class. So the next topic which we will be discussing is taxonomic aid, right? Taxonomic aids. It might be as simple as herbarium, right? Then it might be botanical gardens, followed by museum, zoological parks, right? Then how to identify any living organism, that is a key. We call them key, not the lock and key which you can think of. So in the next topic, or in the next video, I will be discussing with you about various taxonomic aids. That means aid is something which is going to help you, isn't it? So something which is going to help us classify or group different organisms into various taxa. How can we do it? With the help of these several aids, right? So stay tuned for more such videos which will make your biology simple for NEET. Please do like my video, share my video, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. Thank you. Stay safe until the next time we meet.